first day of New York Film Fest for me, so I'm here in the city. Gonna go see In Water, Hong Sang-soo's movie. It's the first one of the okay. This one's like completely out of focus the whole time, except for I think like one scene. It's been described as like impressionistic, which I've actually been getting into impressionism this month. I'm no expert on it, but you know, it's gonna be interesting to see how you compare it. So the whole point of impressionism, at least as far as what I've read about it, is fighting against this like trend in realism that was going on at the time in like the 1830s to the 1870s. Artists were hyper-focused on like romanticizing the past and things like that, and also getting things in super detail. So a big thing would be like to just stand around a painting and look at all the little intricate details, and no brush strokes, it's really flat. And normally historical scenes, either Greek or kind of like Roman. Napoleon was a big thing in France. It was also around the time of photography had been invented, and so a lot of artists were using it for like models or reference to illustrate how intense the art world was at the time, but right before Impressionism. Like the mindset was, for instance, if you were going to paint a historical shipwreck, you would hire the guy that made the ship or one of his like children, and then you would source the wood so that's the exact same wood, and then you would have a replica built in your backyard. And then you would go on a years-long interviewing anybody that has survived from it or their kids heard stories about it. And then you'd go to the place where the shipwreck happened at the exact month and do a lot of studies there. And then you spend a year painting it. It's just like, that's the level of detail that was going on. What Impressionism was interested in doing is A, showing modern people instead of historical figures. B, being more about the impression of a space rather than the actual detail of it. So, for instance, photographs are already doing all this detail. To make it contemporary, you could say, you could take a picture of a house party and see it and say like, okay, I can tell what that house party is. But how would you show how it felt to be at that party without just showing me a snapshot of the literal thing that's happening? So it'll be interesting to see if this really does apply to what Hong Sang-soo is doing in this. Because if the point of the image that you're seeing in association with the story is to further the feeling or to inform the story, what can an image do that's more abstract that one that's clear doesn't? Obviously, experimental film has messed with this stuff for a long time, but what I think is interesting is not some sort of representational thing. You are literally watching the narrative play out, but in an abstracted form. It's also supposed to only be an hour long, or an hour and some change, which is nice, just for timing's sake, but then also because that, to me, means it's more compact in a statement. We'll see how it is. Ooh, missed a spot. This whole side of my face, there's a lot going on here. So it wasn't just a movie that's all blurry. It's a movie just about these three people who work other jobs getting together for a week to make a low-budget movie. Okay, my gut response is that I like really loved it. I teared up a few times. I think that like, maybe I'm putting too much of a narrative. This is once again just my gut response. It felt like memory a little bit, like it was a period piece, but without establishing anything beforehand. Felt like it really served it narratively. I wasn't sure how it would go going in. Does not feel like a gimmick. It's got like parts that are in focus too, which is cool because it feels like when you're remembering something, like as you get older, it feels like him kind of reflecting back on his life when he was a younger filmmaker. And this kind of idea of not all the important things are in focus in your memory. Things that are stupid can be in focus. And there can be things that are important that you remember, but a lot of times even really important parts of your life, it's easy to forget. This was the perfect movie to start the festival off on too, because it's a movie about making movies, you know what I mean? It's about a filmmaker kind of improvisationally making a movie, and we see some of the shots like replayed from a different perspective. And you see him kind of working through it and like describing the plot to people, and they're like, oh, this sounds really cool. This may have been like a blip on this person's radar in their life or not, it doesn't matter. There's gonna be a lot of movies, especially like at festivals, that people do put a lot of work into. And in the moment it feels so important, but at the end of the day, it does take time even in your own memory. So it's an interesting way to go into a festival. All right, see you on the next one.
And so the selection of exactly what piece in a reaction shot.
Here, day 2 of New York Film Fest. I just got finished watching a really cool talk between 2 film editors, Richard Linklater's longtime editor and Andrew Haig's longtime editor. It was really fun. I really loved hearing their experiences and their approach and little tidbits that they had that I'll be thinking about. Tonight I'm seeing the triple feature of Jean-Luc Godard, Wang, and Pedro Costa. 2 of them are kind of works in progress-y things. Basically, Jean-Luc Godard died when he was making his final movie, but in his process to figure out what he was going to do, he made kind of this collage with audio that he put over the top of it. And then the other side of the work in progress image is Pedro Costa's Daughters of Fire. As far as I understand, it is the story of there's 3 women, a volcano explodes, and then the screen splits into 3, and we follow each one of the women. And it's apparently got musical elements, and it's all filmed on like a soundstage, I think. That one's like 10 minutes, Godard's is 20 minutes. And then in the middle, the meat of it is Wang Bing's Man in Black, which is an hour-long documentary about a modern Chinese composer who had been captured by the government and tortured. And it's him kind of telling the story while there's some audio elements kind of fighting with his dialogue. But probably the headline of it is that he is walking around in an empty auditorium and he himself is, this older man, is completely nude. Thoughts going into it. Godard's not really my dude. I really like Band of Outsiders, and I think Alphaville is really cool as well. You know, I watched it and I didn't really love it, but I ended up thinking about it a lot. For me personally, Godard is best like with annotations. It's not something that I necessarily appreciate fully on a first one, because like, here's all the references he's making. Then that becomes playful and fun for me. I just don't have the same reference level as he does or is trying to do. And so I think Band of Outsiders for me personally works as just a movie without all of that extra on top of it. But some of his later stuff, it feels so dense. You know, I used to say my favorite comic book series was League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. And one of the reasons I liked it so much was that its density. In case you don't know about it, it's just a bunch of literary characters kind of forming like a Justice League type thing. Like you'll see like Dracula fighting Moriarty type thing. It's written by Alan Moore, who's notoriously dense, but long story short, the reason this relates to Godard, after League of Extraordinary Gentlemen had its main run, it then did a series of shorter novella-length comics, which were occurring as more message boards were jumping on top of it and things like that. And the author of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen found that they had a freedom and felt compelled to stuff as many references as possible into every single image, because they knew that there was this online community. And then it became this kind of meta game between the community and the creator to see if you could catch everything that he was referencing in every single shot. Like as an example, there'd be a crowd scene and there'd be a character in there that only appears in the background of a crowd and never appears again. But the same way the surface level of those comics don't necessarily impress, the more you know about it, the annotation, the meta of it is what's interesting. I think that's the same kind of thought process that, at least as I understand it, Godard's later work is, or at least what I've seen. All that being said, I expect these collage works to be just as obtuse, especially I'm not aware if they're just for him or if they were for like to be shown to people, but especially if it was just for him, it's going to be even more dense. It's going to be kind of A to C for him, but not necessarily for us. Kind of, I'm interested to see if I will make any of the connections that he does. Wang Bing's I'm really excited for. I haven't seen any of his work before. I'm aware of him. I think experimental documentaries are very, very interesting. When I first heard the concept of this is like a naked dude telling his life story, I was like, okay. But some of the footage I saw and some of the subject matter when I hear about the history of it and like why specifically he's doing it, not just to be like, look, he's raw, but there's more to it. That piqued my interest, and I'm interested to see if there is even more layers than that, than just like the very obvious he's naked therefore raw. And then finally, Pedro Costa's, I have no idea what to expect. I think it'll be really interesting to see the 3, if that's been described to me correctly, to see the 3 at once. I think that's such a fun idea and premise. What I've heard about it is it's very, not incomplete maybe isn't the right word, but maybe something you'd see at a gallery rather than something you pay a ticket to see in a movie theater, which is fine by me. I'm anticipating with all of these, a lot of ideas being thrown at the board, and I'm here for it. One huge question I have going into this is, will I be able to identify the string that the programmers had in mind when they put it all together? Okay, so that showing was like at 9:15, and there was a Q&A after, and then I pretty much missed every train, and then long story short, I'm home now, and it's like 1:30. Briefly, the Godard one, I actually enjoyed way more than I thought I would. It's my favorite of the bunch. It was literally like slides, numbered slides. There were collages. Occasionally there'd be like abrupt music. We got to actually see some footage in there. It was really dense. I mean, honestly, as dense as some of the stuff he tries to do. Like I said, I enjoy Godard the best, like, when I have context for what he's doing and what he's playing with. And I feel like I was able to grasp it a little bit here. I love Godard's ideas, but just not always his execution. So seeing all the ideas play out and all the things he was like messing with, it was fun to try and piece together what your version of the movie would be. Wang Bing, not Wang Bing, as I've been saying. Wang Bing's Man in Black was, you could feel the full hour. I didn't necessarily think that the experiments that he was doing in it constituted the full hour, but there were some really magical stuff that did occur. My favorite parts were there were moments where this composer, he's telling his life story and his music is coming in behind him. And he's speaking so passionately and his music's so intense that sometimes the music would overlap. And if there weren't subtitles, I would have no idea what he was saying, you know? And the way it showed how much his music was an extension of himself. The words he was saying were conveying the same thing that his music was saying, which was it's kind of like blurred the lines between him and his music, which is a really fun thing to see. Daughters of Fire was the last one. It was only 10 minutes, which was nice because I was getting tired. It was a triptych of images. It felt like the start to a musical, like a dramatic musical. It wasn't them moving around as I thought it would be. It was just very posed, static images. They all sang together, and then it cut to some archival footage from the 50s. There's some interesting stuff in there, but it wasn't a fully formed thought, to me, at least. And that's fine. So one of the questions was, how do they all tie together? What's the string? Well, there's two elements I think that do. One is music. All three of them were utilizing music in weird ways. Godard's had this like super abrupt music that would cut in and out like a score, almost like temp music, but like really erratic. The Wang Bing one's obvious. It's cutting in and out. It's blurring the lines between creator and the music itself. And then in Pedro Costa's, it was like literally a musical. And the second part is they all are kind of works in progress-y things, sketches. I still have questions about how the Godard one was put together. Did he put it together? Was it put together later? Who decided when the music stopped and started? Also, it's a collage. There's lots of words everywhere as well as images. And sometimes the music would stop and it would show the subtitles for what was written on the screen. I wonder if that was adjusted versus the normal French version. The Wang Bing one, at first I was like, well, this doesn't seem like it fits, but he multiple times said it's a video art project. He says he does not consider it a film at all. It was a project he made for someone that's a friend that he cares about a lot, and it was him kind of experimenting with something that was more improvisational and freeform, in between him making this huge documentary series that he's doing right now called Youth, which the first installment just came out, and apparently he went through like 2,600 hours of footage. And then the final one is very obviously just, it's a song, and then it's some archival footage. It's like, they're playing around with something, but it's not a fully formed thought. So these are just all little sketches. My impression getting out of it is that I didn't enjoy it as much as I did in Water. There's some fun ideas in here for sure. And I'm glad that I got to hear Wang Bing talk after. I think that did add some fun context and value to the entire proceedings. I will say, after watching In Water, then seeing the talk with the editors, which showed some clips from what they were working on, and then seeing this kind of experimental showcase, I am kind of craving a more traditional movie grounded in like theater, which I may or may not be getting tomorrow. We'll see. I think it'll still be a hybrid. But yeah. All right. See you tomorrow. Night 3. This movie's at a normal time. It's not in the middle of the night. It's definitely near the top of the movies that I've been most excited to see. It's a movie called Inside the Yellow Cocoon Shell. It's kind of the slow cinema movie about a person whose family friend dies. He goes back to his hometown where he grew up. The main character is an atheist. They notice that everyone around him who is religious is handling this death better than he is, and he has to kind of rethink his stance. Followed any of my ramblings here at all, you know, recently I've gotten interested in kind of good faith adaptations. If adults don't dismiss faith, how they incorporate it into their work, not necessarily as a religious movie, but just as a movie about a religion exists in the world, so we shouldn't just ignore it. I've heard that the choreo for this is really great. The cinematography is supposed to be incredible. After seeing last night's showing, which was very self-serious, I'm hoping that there is some energy to this that isn't as morose, some playfulness, some life, the other ones were a very specific spectrum of humanness, and I'm hoping that this one shows more of a breadth of humanness than the singular emotions that the shorts last night were focusing on, and the shorts necessitate kind of that focus anyways, so. But really excited about it. It was really nice last night. It was really calm out here by the Lincoln Center. They have this grassy lawn where you can just hang out, and I was just read before the movie. It was fun. But we'll see. I loved In Water. It really is just last night that I think I am feeling fatigued from. Since I live outside the city, it takes a little bit of extra work to get down here every night around dinner to see a movie. It's only been 2 nights, so I don't know why I'm talking about it like it's been a year. And this is something that I am enjoying. I don't want you to think I'm not. But yes, I'm having fun with it. I'm gonna go get in line. Bye.
Cái nghề câm điệu và Thảo là một.
And said that all the characters in this film have their own divine calling.
Man, that was not at all what I expected. As you can see, it's much later now. That's because that movie was over 3 hours long. I've been on kind of a stint of watching these super long movies. Rosie's made fun of me, rightly, for it. It seems like every other movie I watch is 3 to 4 hours long. So I don't know what that's about, but it's a thing that's going on right now. But it was not at all what I expected. First of all, the plot was way easier to follow than I thought. I thought it was going to be kind of obtuse, and it was supposed to be slow cinema, so I know it'd be real vibey. But it actually had a plot that made me say like, oh, well, what's happening next? I can kind of see where we're going here. And sometimes with more experiential movies, I feel that it's kind of like, okay, you're anticipating the next thing, just okay, what will you make me feel with this next part? It was interesting. It was very overtly religious, which was interesting. At the end, during the Q&A, the director was kind of like, yeah, every character you see in the movie is answering a question, what does a person look like when they respond to God's call? Whether that be accepting it, rejecting it, or abandoning it. I think my favorite part of the movie was it was kind of this mix of like almost what felt like documentary, and then they were all non-actors, and then these fiction beats, and there would be these really cool things where you'd be watching something and you'd be like, okay, this is just like a vibey atmospheric shot of like two roosters or something like that, and then something very organic feeling would happen. You'd be like, oh, that was, man, they must have been so excited to catch that on film. But then the shot would continue and it'd be revealed it was just like a really elaborate choreographed scene. There are a lot of really cool like movie magic moments in it that I thought were really fun. There is a sequence where he's hanging out with somebody. He's like, hey, I need to go meet with this guy. Do you know where he lives? And they're like, okay. And they give him directions. And then he gets on a motorbike and the camera just follows him the entire way. And you're just like, whoa, it's so cool. And then it sits with them as they talk. And I don't know, I really like those like fun little tricks You know, I didn't expect to like have a big smile on my face, and I did for a lot of this, as dumb as that sounds. But I really liked the structure of the movie too. It felt like kind of a novella or something. It felt like literature, in part because it was kind of like, it was so focused on creating a space that you really could kind of fill in the blanks. It also was like an intimate story, you know? It was something that was very small, but what it like focused on, it really focused on and told in a really specific way. And it would do things like you'd meet a character and then they wouldn't hold your hand and say that we're going back in time, but then you'd see what had happened previous. And it really trusted the audience a lot with a lot of its stuff. All in all, I did really like it. It didn't hit me in the gut in a way that I would kind of expect a movie like this to. But from a technical perspective, it was really, really good. Yeah. I think what was really encouraging was after seeing last night's experimental block, seeing this one, which was also doing a lot of interesting things that would be considered not experimental, but not marketable. It had a debt to movie language. And I like when those two mix together. And that was a really great way to get back into it. I'm very hungry. I'm gonna go get an ill-advised snack, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Headed towards round 4. Had a little break in between the last two, which is nice. I honestly think that like having some time in between to think is really nice because it feels overwhelming. Double feature today. The first, I'm seeing a set of shorts. One called Last Things, which is it's a story of the history of Earth told as if rocks were the main character. It's got like snippets of sci-fi in there. I love the idea of mixing documentary and sci-fi. I love weird sci-fi, so I have no idea what it looks like, you know? I'm interested to see all the different elements in play. And there's a Q&A with the director after, so really excited to see where her brain was at when she was making it. The second part of it is something that's unique to a film fest, which is an experimental 3D film. I'm anticipating to get some glasses. It's about a hedge maze, so it should be a really fun pairing of the two. Excited to see that combination. So this is going to be an inspiring set, I think. I'm excited to see it. This is the smaller theater. You can already see people lining up. I haven't, all the movies I've chosen have been in the smaller theater. So, I don't know. I do get to see one in the big theater later, I think. We'll see.
Seduction, to think about, I'd never thought about the fact that some particles have a memory and some don't. And what is...
I have a... Man, I went in being most excited about Last Things, but oh my god, Laberint sequence is like, it's like sleeper agent unlocked me. I was just like had trouble breathing. I was too emotional after it, and it was like non-narrative. It was just the whole thing was incredible, more than I expected it to be. I don't have the words for it. If I described it, it would sound cool, you know what I mean? But I don't know. I just really felt it, which was really cool. Also, one thing I really liked about this set was it was two people who I feel that really cared about movie making, and were joyful about it. It was probably the best crowd that I've been to so far. Everyone was probably happy. They were like chatting with each other. They were laughing. They had friends. When I went to Yellow Cocoon, I sat by somebody and I asked them a question. They were just like so cold. And this was kind of the opposite experience, which is really fun to be around. Even the director of Last Things at the end was like, hey, we're all going to Central Park after if anybody else wants to come, like to the whole entire crowd. It's just a very welcoming, like fun environment. There's some creators in front of me who were talking about their latest projects and stuff like that. It was just a fun, like, just an overall super fun vibe. And then Last Things was also good. very beautiful, like compiled from a lot of footage, which is super cool. It was less about like, hey, what if rocks are the main character of history, but more like the scientific fact that like some rocks have memory, and treating rocks and the evolution of rocks as another creature alongside humans and animals and plants, and talking about some of the history of like old rocks or extinct rocks or like space rocks that we found that have been unchanged by Earth, so they are, you know, contain the minerals that make up the universe early on, you know, and the idea of how rocks are part of the ecosystem, like creating like electromagnetic waves that protect us from the sun, which, you know, like birds use and stuff like that, but just opening it up a little bit more to, I don't know, it was both more and less of a documentary than I thought it was going to be. So overall, good time. What's up next is I do not expect too much from the end of the world. Should I change location for this? That could be funny. Okay, I'm gonna change location. So drinking some Red Bull, and I'm getting ready for the next movie that I'm seeing, which is Do Not Expect Too Much from the End of the World. This Romanian kind of like punk rocky movie. It's the one I was the least excited to going in. It's supposed to be kind of like, I've heard it be like Godard-ian. Very like youthful energy. So honestly, after seeing a lot of slow stuff, I'm interested to see this like kind of faster paced thing. It's supposed to be long though, which I'm kind of like, okay, I like a short one. So I'm very going in blank. You know, I'm expecting maybe even not to like it. So maybe that's the best headspace to go in. I'm excited to see how it turns out. I probably won't be getting out. This movie starts at 8:30, and I probably won't be getting out of the theater till like 11. So we'll see how it goes. I wanted to choose one thing to challenge me, something outside of my comfort zone, something people were saying was good that I wouldn't see in any other scenario. So that's what I'm doing here, and I'll be back in touch and I'll let you know how it goes. Okay, bye. Okay, so just my initial thoughts while I'm waiting for the subway. Way more fun than I thought. I think a lot of like programmers are scared of using the word comedy, I guess, because it just was like a super dark comedy. It definitely has some like formally experimental stuff, but it was way less chaotic and in your face than I expected. I think I have eyelash there. It was way less like inaccessible as I thought. It was fast. It was nice to see something that narrative after seeing a lot of stuff that is non-narrative. But I thought it was good. I thought it was fun. Yeah, you know, I went in not knowing what to expect, and I left enjoying it. So, hey, there you go. Like, there's some really like dark stuff. Like the jokes that they're playing on some really, maybe the darkest comedy I've ever seen. The director did have a funny video beforehand where it was this kind of like vertical video where he had a filter on of sunglasses, and he was basically like, hey, sorry the movie's so long. I've tried to do several movies in one so that you get your money's worth for the ticket price. If you have any complaints about the movie, here's my email address, and he put it on the screen, and he's like, email me your complaints, I'll try and answer them. Seems like a goofy guy. It was fun to see someone who's playful. Sometimes with these directors, they just like just so somber. It's like, this is the most serious thing, but it was fun to see someone who's like being silly. It's been raining all day today, and so I wore this combo, which did actually come in handy. It was kind of like chilly. I'm cutting close, but I'm trying to catch this train. Oh, I hear it. I got like a 3-minute window to get from this train, from its destination, to my train home, or else I have to wait like another hour. So, wish me luck. I guess that works.
Four Hugo, 4 Nebula, and 6 Locus Awards, and has been reprinted in the Best American Short Stories.
Tonight I'm seeing The Beast, based on this novella from 1903. It's supposed to be kind of like a sci-fi-ish story. It takes place over 3 time periods. It follows these lovers that are destined to fail. It stars Léa Seydoux. The reviews seem to be a little lynchy, I guess, is kind of how I describe what the vibe seems to be. But it's a weird sci-fi, so just on principle, I'm on board. The first half of all my festival stuff has been very like non-narrative, experimenting with the form. The second half I've been seeing that applied to a narrative style. So this one's another kind of narrative one. So I'm excited to be in amidst another narrative. This one says it's kind of creepy, kind of like Mulholland Drive-y a little bit. So that should be interesting. This honestly, like, despite it sci-fi, it wasn't necessarily on my radar. And then I saw a clip from it and I was kind of like, oh, okay, I get it. So I'm excited to see it. Also today, before I bought the New York Film Fest tickets, because the 6 Pass had sold out, I had bought tickets to see my favorite author was doing a talk at the New Yorker Film Fest. So I came out early to do that. There's a talk about AI with Ted Chiang and this philosopher that I wasn't familiar with, but it was a really fun talk. I'm kind of tired of the AI discussion, but this one was really good. I'm excited to see this next one. We're finishing off stock. I got one more after this, which is Aki Kaurismäki's Fallen Leaves. This one I'm super excited about too, but we're kind of finishing with the more traditional stuff. I keep apologizing to Rosie because I keep being out in the city so late, but she's been super nice about it. I haven't seen too many things that are performance-based yet, and I think this is going to be a really, and if I was to change something, I'd probably have a few more performance-based things, and I think this one is going to be one of those. Something that I'm really going to admire the performances in it, so that's what I'm going into expecting. It's chilly out here today. It's like in the 60s, low 60s. It's really fun.
Melodrama drove me to his novel, which is on my desk for like 10 or 15 years.
Got responses coming back from that. It was exactly what I wanted it to be. It was even better, really. The performances were incredible. The romantic tension between the 2 characters was, I don't know if I've ever seen a movie that palpable. It skips between like times within it. There's only like 1 or 2 moments where jumping back and forth added to it. I kind of wish they would just went straight through. The costuming was really beautiful. The acting was great. Very small cast. It was interesting because like in sci-fi it's about world building and what can you do here in this world that you can't do in like where we are now. And I think that the ending of it is something that can only exist in the world that was created, and I didn't see it coming, and it was very cool. So I really enjoyed it. It was really fun. Another late night. It's like I'm just getting out on the train and it's midnight, so c'est la vie. Chilly 40-something degrees out here today. I'm coming to you from the last day that I'll be at NYFF. It's a midday, Indigenous Peoples Day. Working on the go, just sending off emails and gonna pop into this 12:45 showing of Aki Kaurismäki's Fallen Leaves. Finishing out the festival with something beautiful and optimistic about life. This is kind of a before sunrise type rom-com. By Aki Kaurismäki. It looks beautiful. I'm expecting some human moments, and all I want is for this festival to end on a very gentle human note. If this turns out to be super cynical, I'll be disappointed, but I guess it's okay. Yeah, just super excited. It's a beautiful day. Gonna grab some coffee or something. It's only like 80 minutes long, so isn't that nice? What a week. All right, I'll see you guys on the other side. Oh man, so good. It was exactly what I needed, what I wanted. It was so heartfelt. It felt like a play at times, part of the mid-arb shit cinematic universe. It was really pretty. It was a soft movie. It was a gentle movie. I can't think of a better way to close this whole thing out. So we're starting where we began. I filmed my other one over there. The first one at the festival, at least. So it's been a long week, but just a really touching end to the whole thing. It was really beautiful. Okay, well, thanks for following. If you liked what you saw here, I won't be doing this exactly, but feel free to follow us here on YouTube or on Letterboxd. I'll be back next week with another hyper-specific entertainment list. My name's Houston. This is Media Mood Board. Bye. Just got out of the real end of the New York Film Fest. Well,
Yes.
wasn't rushing. Bye.